The story I did was a scandal in Bohemia. Exposition of the story. Late March in 1888 in London, Count von Kram had sent a note to Sherlock and Watson on the back of a German newspaper. Sherlock then deduced it was from Bohemia using the font of letters that were on the newspaper in the note. Rising action. Kram explains how he sent Irene Adler a few letters in the past and wants them back. This is because he believed Irene would use them for blackmail. He thought Irene would use the letters to indicate his fiancée that he had been with another woman at the time. The climax was when Sherlock and Watson show up outside Irene's house to try and retrieve the letters, and her carriage comes right outside. A few people compete to open the door for her, as one of them gets elbowed and falls to the ground. She comes out of her carriage to see what was happening, and Sherlock spots where the letters in her jewel box. Following action was when he planned to go to Irene's home the next day to get the letters, when a woman comes to Sherlock and Watson with a letter themselves. The woman tells them that Irene had taken a train out of the country, never to return. The letter from Irene had stated that she was warned about Sherlock months before that time, and had thought if Kram had hired anyone, it would be Sherlock. She had also sent the king's letters to Sherlock. Resolution. Sherlock offered the king his letters from the past, but the king refused. The story ended with Sherlock and Watson remembering how they were outwitted by a woman. The setting of the story was in late March 1888. Point of view was told in first person from Dr. Watson's perspective. The genre, I believe, would be realistic fiction. The the word choice used in the story was old-fashioned and proper, and the tone was formal and also humorous. Some deductive conclusions that Sherlock made were using the font of letters to find where the note was from. He used scraped leather on Watson's shoes to deduce that Watson had a terrible maid. He used the papers and information given to him by Count von Kram to deduce that he was the king of Bohemia. He predicted when Irene would show where she hid his letters, and he knew which plan would work to reveal the location of those letters. So, characters in the story, Sherlock Holmes was the main character, a very smart and intuitive man. He was known as the best detective around and could deduce major events off of tiny elements. Dr. Watson, who's Sherlock's assistant, he was a loyal man and a competent doctor. He had to follow along with Sherlock's plans without objection. Count von Kram, or the King of Bohemia, he was a very paranoid man. The whole story, he was afraid of getting blackmailed by Irene and would go along with Sherlock's plans to get his letters back. Irene was a witty woman that had seen Sherlock coming. She was warned about him months before they attempted to retrieve the letters, and when they tried to carry out their plans, she had left the country to escape.